Well, it's time now for us to take a look back at this week's headline-making stories in our Reporter's Rewind. And tonight we are joined by Deji Bryce Olukotun. He is a writer and attorney at the digital rights organization Access. He's also an author. His latest book is called Nigerians in Space. We'll have to get him back to talk about that. We also have Molly Crabapple. She is a cartoonist and a journalist with The Vice, and author of the forthcoming memoir Drawing Blood. And we have Olivier O'Mahony, who is the U.S. Bureau Chief of the Paris Match magazine. And we invite all of you, or we welcome all of you to Arise America. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, of course, much of the drama is over with this tragic attack in Paris, although there is still one suspect that's still on the loose, and there is, of course, the fear that there will be others to come. Let me start with you, Olivier. You have a friend who was at the Charlie Hebdo offices when this carnage took place. What did your friend tell you about this?
Well, that's right. He's in a shock, obviously. He's alive, and he feels very lucky to be alive. What he told us is actually he was hiding under the table. So he was actually in the room when the shooting happened, and he hid under another table. And he heard a lot of noise and then the silence. And we were very worried because we couldn't reach him on the phone. And we found out, he told us that that's because he had left his phone on the table where people were seated, and it was covered by blood, and he didn't want to take it as an evidence of the shooting for the investigators.
Right, just incredible. I imagine it's very difficult to handle having been a part of something like that for him.
He's in a shock, that's for sure.
To say the least, I would imagine. Molly, you're a cartoonist. You're not a political cartoonist, but a cartoonist nonetheless. And part of what cartoonists do as journalists is take interesting looks at society. Some of it is irreverent and some of it isn't. But does this incite a little bit of fear for you in what you do?
I'm in mourning for my fellow artists. I'm not afraid, but I'm in mourning for them. And I have a special sort of revulsion for the people who say that, oh, these people knew what they were doing. Oh, there are responsibilities for free speech. To me, anyone who speaks about the murders in that way is saying the same thing as a man who said, oh, that woman was wearing a miniskirt, she asked for it.
You know, what really is at stake here, I think, is freedom of expression, the freedom of the press. Deji, what were the thoughts and the issues that have bubbled up in your mind as this harrowing story has unfolded?
My first reaction was just horror. I think, like a lot of people, when they read this story online, when I woke up to it, it was terrifying and frightening. I tracked this case about 3 years ago, the Charlie Hebdo case, when I was working for an organization called PEN, a writers' organization. They were publishing some incendiary comics at the time, and their office had been firebombed. I never thought it would come to this. But reacting to social media, I've got to say, I've been really amazed at the outpouring of creativity, but sometimes I also feel that if people really want to make a difference, there's some organizations that are already working on this. They're very small, they have no staff, but they support cartoonists all the time. One is Cartoonist Rights Network International. You can support them. Comic Book Legal Defense Fund here in the United States. Fantastic organizations. But I've had the opportunity to work with other cartoonists in other countries, some of whom are in exile, and there's no doubt that a threat alone is enough to have a chilling effect on everyone else.
And to that point, then, this is why I want to hear from all three of you on this, and that is, should there be a line? Should there be people, images, organizations that are considered sacrosanct? Olivier, I'll start with you.
Well, I guess in France there is a tradition of humor, and that goes back to and making fun of everything, and there is no line, and that goes back to the French Revolution, and it's considered as a right in France, and those guys were making fun of everybody, French politicians, religion. They were off limits, so people were shocked. Other people found it normal. I mean, it's part of the French culture, you know, so it's not going to change.
What are your thoughts, Molly?
There's a huge difference between an ethical line and a legal line. I am of the free speech wing of the Free Speech Party. I believe there should be no legal restraints on freedom of speech. Ethically, I don't believe in punching down. I don't believe in using your artwork to marginalize people who are already marginalized. I believe that the bravest thing that you can do is to take on power. Some of the work that Charlie Hebdo did does strike me as xenophobic in the American context, though I would never say that the people who made it were xenophobes. But that's just the sort of decontextualizing thing that can happen. But other work they did was some of the bravest leftist work, the bravest anti-fascist work, the bravest anti-clerical work. I think it would have been amazing if Charlie Hebdo had more Arab cartoonists on the staff. That the best way that we can do work that takes on power and that is scathing and brutal, but in the right tradition, is to have as many diverse artists and writers as we can.
As you're giving your perspective, as I understand it, Deji, that you have observed and covered, Charlie Muhammad drawing controversy for quite some time, and do you feel like there was some carelessness here?
I'd say I agree with Molly in the sense that I don't think the law should step in here. I guess I'm a purist in the American tradition in that I believe if you're inciting someone to violence, if you're actually trying to provoke, that's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. That's illegal and people can really get harmed. This was different. I would say you could argue it was in bad taste, that some of the cartoons went too far. But from what I've read and what I understand, you need people to push the limits.
You can't do art if you ban bad taste.
You can't. And it's the chilling effect that I mentioned earlier, which is that when you know someone has been harmed or threatened for putting a comic on the page, for expressing ideas, you might not do it again.
I want to jump in here very quickly. Excuse me for interrupting you. Yeah. Olivia, I want to give you the last word, and I'm wondering if this incident will set back the conversation regarding tolerance of Muslims in France.
But people don't think those guys are Muslim. That's what the French president said. He said those guys are not Muslims. They are just terrorists. They're murderers. So people. No, I think it's going to be hard for Muslim I sympathize for the Muslim, really, because it's going to be hard for them.
We'll have to leave it right there for now. Olivier O'Mahony, Deji Olukotun, and Molly Crabapple. Thank you all for being here. It was a nice conversation. And you're watching Arise America.